going to record right here. We're just going to start right here. I'm not going to start over. Other materials, probably something that would come in handy, maybe a flash drive if you're on here on campus and you're working on the computers. If you need to transfer files between or to kind of have those available, it's also not a bad idea to have backup files as well on a flash drive. So that's something good to have. Scientific calculator, whatever calculator that you're used to using that you're comfortable with is all that you need. Just making sure that you have those scientific functions. Make sure that you have a pencil. When you hand in work for me, I want you to use pencil because when mistakes are made, and they happen, I'd like you to erase and not scribble and things like that. So please use pencil. A computer with webcam, because of the fact that we're going to be virtually live on Thursdays, you do need to have a computer with a working webcam. And it's good to have high-speed internet connection so that you don't get the little like circle that goes around. My information is here. So my name is Kelly Riba. For those who maybe don't know me, you can always get a hold of me at my email that's listed here, the wctc.edu. And then my phone number here is my personal cell phone. So just because I'm not on campus every single day, 9 to 5 or anything like that, I do have that on here because I want you to have the ability to either text me or call me if something does come up. So email and text are really the fastest ways to get a hold of me. Expectation for response time. So you can expect to get a response to me usually within 24 hours. Now, if you don't hear from me within 24 hours, because what's unique about my schedule this term, I'm only teaching night classes, but I'm teaching 5 nights a week. So if you are working in the evening, you may not hear from me because I'm going to be working too. So probably the day is going to be the best time that I would probably get back to you. If you don't hear from me and you are kind of, needing to hear from me, don't think that I'm ignoring you. I don't intend to ever ignore anybody. Just gently remind you and say, hey, did you get my email or did you get my text message? And I'll get right on it. So just be aware of that. The Zoom for link is going to be in our course for those who are virtual. You guys know where that is. Has everybody, I think just about everybody has experienced a virtual class in some way, shape, or form, and most of you with me already, okay, using Zoom. So if you haven't, then just see me and I can just make sure that you know where everything is. Office hours are by appointment. So again, you get, access to me during our class here, but if there's anything that you want to meet with me individually on, then we'll just, kind of communicate and find a common time. What we're going to be learning in this course, again, I'm not going to go through this. It's an extension of those 3 courses that we talked about. So at the beginning here, we are going to be reviewing some things that probably, you've had most recently in physics, and then we're going to be continuing to apply. The main difference, I'm going to just kind of, in a nutshell, dynamics is going to take things from a static mode like we had in kinematics, but we're now going to be adding the forces to things. Okay. Before we weren't worried about forces in kinematics. Now we're going to be worried about adding those as things move around. So that's really kind of the big, if you would, jump, the difference in the 2 classes. As far as critical life skills here at WCTC, as you move through our programs and graduate, we want to make sure not only do you know your subject matter, but have you gained some skills that are going to make you employable and just better in general as an educated person. So we have a list of 4 critical life skills that we pretty much, if you would, make sure that we hit along the different courses as you make it through the program. But the 2 that we're specifically going to be exercising this term are going to be the critical thinking, problem solving, and also self-management. Critical thinking, problem solving, it's all going to be like word problems, setting up situations, and then you have to pick out items in order to solve the problem. So you kind of look at those variables, figure out what equations or conditions are going to be needed, and then you solve the problem from there. So multi-step problems, kind of using the information that you have there, bringing it all together. Self-management is really all about making sure that you're managing your time and that you're meeting the deadlines. So, and then being able to work independently, because we're not going to always get everything done every single time we're together here in class. Program outcomes. So again, there's three program outcomes here that are going to be assessed, if you would, in this class that we hit. And you can feel free to read those over, but it's kind of looking at the overarching mechanical engineering technology program and pulling out the things that, that we specifically are going to be practicing here. As far as external standards in this class, there really aren't any. The one that you guys end up seeing most often in the mechanical engineering technology program is the dimensioning standard, and you've seen those in different classes. But in our class here, we don't have that one, and there isn't any specific standard that we're going to be looking at. Now, technology-wise for this class, you will need to have access to a computer or laptop that can connect to a high-speed internet connection so that you have the capability of being virtually live through Zoom on our Thursday meetings, okay? You can, I have the wrong room here because I'm also in 204 here, but in the mechanical design lab, you can access this information as well. Like if you wanted to be virtual in here, unfortunately on Thursdays, because we're in the evening, there isn't anybody that could open up this room. So if you wanted to or needed to be on campus, you certainly can stay on campus, but you probably need to connect via your own laptop and maybe be in one of the common areas. Or I think doesn't the library have some computers that you can use as well? So you could also go to the library. We aren't going to be using CAD software, so you don't have to worry about having access to CAD software. Just really the computer webcam type of a thing. I do want you to have a working webcam, okay? And I'm actually requiring it. Reason being, in the past when I've done virtuals, I sometimes suspect that we're not always on task when we're not on our webcam. And that's okay. I mean, that happens. But I am going to ask that during our lecture time and after, okay? Not into the lab time, and I'll let you know when you can turn that off. I do want the webcams on because I really do want to be sure that you're staying on task. It's hard for me to justify, or it's really not fair to those who are present, paying attention, and they're getting credit for attendance, and those who may not be. So I kind of want you to, if you would, I'm going to say in quotes, I want you to prove that that you're in attendance and that you're paying attention so that I indeed can feel confident that you've gotten the information. I've also gotten questions sometimes afterwards, and I'm like, you sure I talked about that in class? But things happen. So I am going to be more on the webcam thing. So be sure that you get yourself a good working webcam. So that when we are in those virtual modes that I can see you. And it also makes it feel more like a class, you know, like we're all here together. So just so you know. And then I don't know if scientific calculator is considered technology, but I put it here because that's something you're going to want, and then a flash drive. As far as technology related skills, just a solid understanding of navigating around Canvas, Zoom, Word, Excel, which if you're at this point in the program, you guys are all very comfortable with those items. If you have any problems with technology, we have a really great service desk here at WCTC, even if it's on your own personal device. I know some people, especially when it comes to, you know, getting software running and working on your own personal laptop, if you take it to our help desk, they will help you with it if they can. Now, they might not be able to solve each and everything, but I think they're really good because they load software on all of our computers here on campus. So they've got a lot of really good experience when it comes to that. If you're having any issues on any other applications, even if they are WCTCs, then they should be able to help you as well. So the phone number is listed here, as well as you can always send them an email. And then there's also a connection to their technology resource page here. Now, usually on syllabus day, you want to know what are the things I'm going to be doing to build my grade. So you are going to be having practice problems in here. So part of what I want to make sure that you're doing when I am lecturing is following along with the examples. I specifically pick examples to do in class here so that you can see the formatting required. As you know, Kelly, formatting is kind of a big deal. And also, I try to make sure that those mimic and set you up for success when you do the homework problems, okay, or what we call the application problems. So because of that, I want you following along and doing those. So often when we do our homework, you can look at what I'm doing and be like, yeah, I get it. Then you have that blank piece of paper and you have that problem statement. You're looking like, okay, where do I get started? I know I've had that, you know, a million times, but by at least having the practice problems and really kind of forced notes, if you would, then then at least you have something to start off with. So practice problems are worth 20% of your grade. And we will always be going over those top to bottom, full answer, all the formatting, everything, me explaining the process during our lecture/demos. Okay. They are going to be checked for completion and you only get one attempt. Okay. Um, we'll talk about late homework in a little bit. Practice problems, every single one of our modules has practice problems. They're going to be worth 10 points each, and it's either 0 or 10. Okay, so again, this sounds familiar for those who have had me. And the whole purpose of that is just to be sure that you have what you need. If you don't do them or you don't follow the formatting, you just get a 0. Okay, I kind of give you a little bit of grace. I mean, if it's two small things, I'll usually give you 10 points, but then note it in the notes. But if you start approaching, and getting 3 and 4 and, that kind of thing, it's just 0. That just kind of means that you weren't following along. Okay. And one attempt on that. So you don't get the opportunity to make the corrections. So be sure when you hand them in that they're going to match what we did in class. The next part here is 40% is going to be the application problems. I like to think of those as, if you would, the homework assignments. So application problems, these you get 2 attempts on. The first initial submission and 1 correction to improve the number of points. And you can, like, let's say you get 5 points off, you can earn those 5 points back by making the corrections and handing it in. Now, I do have a little bit in the late policy, so we'll get to the grace period that you have for those. So application problems, that's, like I said, your homework. So practice problems are going to be done during our class/demo, and then those lead you and are directly related to the application problems or the homework that you're going to be doing for me. Then lastly, we're going to have a midterm and a final in here. And that's going to also be worth 40% of your grade. This is going to be open note, open practice problems, open application problems. So that's why it's important to be really complete and have good readable stuff, not only for me, because Kelly's all about formatting and units and all that kind of stuff, but really for you, so that when you have the 2 assessments here, the midterm and the final, you have good stuff that you can follow along and it'll just be easier for you to do. My philosophy on tests is that nothing should be a surprise. If we've done it in our practice problems and we've done it in our application problems, it's fair game to put on a test, and you should look at it and be like, oh, it's just another one of our problems, but different numbers. Okay, that's it. You should never have any sort of a question on a test from me that you're like, what the heck was that? Okay, we never talked about that. I don't think anybody can ever say that about me because I'm very specific on that. I feel, and I've been in your shoes as a student where I have studied a lot and I have looked at things and I go into a test thinking, I got this. This is going to be that and I get there and I'm looking at something on my paper and I'm like, yeah, where did this come from? Like, I have no idea where to start. Has anybody ever had that experience before? I hope not, but inevitably they happen. So that's something that I am very much, I don't know, just want to make sure that doesn't happen in my class as a teacher. Okay. So I'm not here to trick you. I just want to be sure that you get enough practice so that you know it well enough so that you can tell me that you know it well enough on a test. That's it. Our midterm and our final will be in person and on campus, and I'll put those on the calendar as they get closer. I'll have a little bit better idea. I'm not going to lie. This is the first time I'm teaching dynamics. I know the subject. I'm not afraid of the subject. That's not it. But I also, sometimes you just don't know how long it takes to get through certain things. So we are going to hit everything, but to say the midterms on this day, I don't feel comfortable telling you that right now. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Letter grades, you guys know what those are. Those are the standard WCTC letter grades. When you can expect feedback from me within two school days. And that's like correcting the homework. So when you hand something in, I try to turn it around quickly because I do have a policy about late work, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So I want you, if you're eligible for making corrections and there's some things that can be improved, I want you to have that opportunity to do that. If you notice that I didn't correct something, I'm going to tell you something that's, Canvas is awesome. And it gives you all those notifications on the student side. They don't let me know. Okay. So I've got to literally go in each one of the classes and I've got to like go back and forth and kind of scan the page to see what needs to be corrected. It's not so bad at the beginning when there's only a couple assignments, but kind of when things start filling up, it's never intentional, but I can miss something. So if you do notice and you're like, I handed that in like 3 days ago, I'm wondering if you have a chance to correct that, just gently kind of remind me. But I'm always usually, my goal at the end of every day is to have everything corrected. That's like how I go to bed and I can sleep at night, that I know my work is done. So I'm usually pretty good about that. Exams, like it says here. Oh, I'm sorry. Attendance. Attendance is required for each one of our classes. Okay, even though we are virtually live, even though I am going to be recording our lectures, the expectation is that you are coming to each and every one of our classes, unless I tell you it's a work day. Okay, and we'll talk about that. But most often, we're only meeting twice a week. I'm expecting we're gonna be together in person on in the classroom here. You can also be virtually live, but in the classroom, I'll be broadcasting from here on Tuesdays and then virtually live from my home on Thursdays. Our lecture is a time for you to gain an understanding of the concepts and that are going to be pertaining to the assigned homework that I give you. I will be performing demonstrations, which are our practice problems, on exercises that will mimic your module application problems to help you understand the formatting of the work that you are going to be handing in. Okay. Exams will be performed in class, as we said earlier. They'll be on the calendar as we get closer to those. If you're unable to attend a class, please notify me via email. Don't text me that, okay? You could text me as a secondary or a follow-up to it. That's fine. But email me, because then it's documented, and that way you can say, no, I emailed you at blah, 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 and it's time-stamped and we got it. Just make sure it's before class starts that day, all right? This is considered an excused absence. You're allowed one excused absence without any penalty, okay? Each additional excused absence will result in 2% deduction off of your overall grade. Not having a working webcam will result in an excused absence, okay? So make sure you do have a working webcam. If you are unable to attend the class and do not notify me of an absence, an unexcused absence is going to be recorded. Each unexcused absence is a reduction of 5% off your grade. It's really to kind of get you in that mode of being responsible about, yeah, I'm supposed to be in class and unfortunately I'm sick. You don't have to tell me. I'm not trying to get in your business at all. It's just mimicking what would be expected of you out in industry. Okay, that's all. So just being responsible. And then that way too, I can always let you know that if you end up missing class, excused or unexcused, your responsibility is to watch the recording that I did for that week. Okay. And there'll be a little folder where the session recordings are, so you'll know exactly where those are at. But my expectation is you don't come to the next class until you have reviewed that, because otherwise you're going to miss and it's going to be harder to follow along. Okay. And that's one of the advantages of the recordings as well. In the past, before I had done recordings, years ago, I've been doing them for quite some time now. If a student missed class, I'd have to just say, oh, we went over this section, or meet with them. And if I had an hour and a half lecture, there's no way in 20 minutes I'm ever doing justice for what we had gone over. And inevitably you miss things. By having the recording there, now you get everything, in class. And so I can confidently say, watch the recording. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to have questions. Come to me with questions, but go over the recording first. Okay. I know some of you have had to rely on that when you're sick or something like that. Totally. I think it's at least a little bit easier to feel confident that even though you missed, you're caught up. Okay. Any questions about that? All right. Late work. So this is where we want to pay attention if you're not paying attention right now. Can you submit an assignment after the due date? So each one of our assignments, practice problems and application problems, are going to have a set due date. You will be able to hand in practice problems and application problems 7 days after the set due date without any penalty. Okay. So I pick Fridays because I pick Fridays. To me, that's the end of the week. My kids, when they had classes online or whatever, their due dates were always Sunday nights. And I'm like, do you like that? I feel like that's a weekend. Like, I shouldn't encroach on your weekend. No, Sunday's technically the first day of the week. Anyway, but what I'm trying to say is I pick a date to pick a date. So if Friday nights don't jive with you, like you have something going on or that's just not going to work for you this week, know that you don't have to stress out about trying to make that due date. I have the 7-day grace period there for you. So if working over the weekend is better for you, hand it in Sunday night if that works better, or Monday. Like I said, I just pick a date based on a calendar. And for me to have everything due on Fridays just makes sense in my mind. Okay. And that's how I've just kind of always done it. So that's called the 7-day grace period. Now, practice problems. You get one attempt before the 7-day grace period expires. Okay. So practice problems you cannot hand in after that 7-day grace period expires. You get a 0. Okay. And there's no extensions on that. All right. Module application problems. So remember, practice problems are worth 20%, and that's like our in-class practice problems, sample problems that we do. Module application problems, okay? You get 2 attempts on those. That's like your homework, okay? So we do the practice problems in class, we run through and we go through all the answers. You get everything in front of you, formatting, all that kind of stuff. I do them all. Module application problems are now the ones that, okay, based on what you've learned here, now let's apply it on those application problems. That doesn't mean that I would never do an application problem in class. What'll usually happen is we'll go over things and then I'll say, does anybody have any questions on the homework? Or the next time we get together or as we get closer to that due date, any questions on the homework? And I'll work anything that you want during our class time, okay? Now, the module application problems have that same due date, that same set due date as the practice problems, but you get 2 attempts to hand in for the points back during the 7-day grace period, okay? So once that 7-day grace period expires, you no longer can do corrections, but you can still hand in application problems to the end of the class with a 20% deduction, okay? So even if, for instance, if you're like, I didn't get it in within the 7-day grace period, that's okay, all right? Things happen. But you still can hand in till the end of the class, but this time now your best grade you can get on it is 80 instead of 100% if you would. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so it's always worth, even though that's passed, don't forget that it's out there because you want to get those in before the end of the term, okay? Midterm and final exam. Those we're going to have 1 attempt during the scheduled in-person session. And again, I say see calendar, they're not there yet. We'll get those out there as they get closer. Only excused absences are considered eligible for a makeup. Makeup exams must be scheduled within 1 week of the exam date at an agreed upon time by the instructor. If you tell me I can do it 8 a.m. on Wednesday, that doesn't mean I can, okay? So just remember that it has to be mutually agreed upon, all right, within 1 week. And it's your responsibility to get that done. I'm not going to be chasing you and saying, you missed a midterm. You need to let me know when you can get that in. Nope, you're not going to hear anything from me. It's going to be you managing that, knowing that you need to make it up. Does that make sense? Okay. Zeros are recorded for unexcused absences and failure to schedule that makeup within 1 week. Okay. So that's the deal. Any questions on any of those items? The grace period is something like, again, if you've had me in the past, it's there, but I'll be reminding you every day where we're at on the calendar, what our due dates are, what 7-day grace period we're within, and when one's going to expire. So we always start, if you would, on the calendar. No work will be expected after the final day of the course. Okay, I'm kind of diligent on that. You can play with the in-course dates as much as you want because we have the grace periods and the 20% deduction if you need that, okay? But when the course ends, we want to be buttoned up, okay? Any application problems, practice problems, or exams that aren't submitted will be graded as a 0 and calculated in your final grade, all right? Please note, students who attend class on a regular basis and hand in their work by the due dates earn the highest highest grades in my courses. That's truly the truth, okay? If you're at least within that 7-day grace period, as close to that set due date as possible, you've kind of like done the work and now you're ready to start the next thing. In an 8-week class, we're starting the next thing, okay? So we move along relatively quickly, and that's why it's important to stay on task, okay? So just keep that in mind. But I do give you some flexibility so that if things arise, you just have a bad week and you just need a little bit of extra time rather than worrying about asking me, just take it. Okay. Um, Classroom behavior. Truly, again, you guys kind of know, you've been here. This is your, if you're in dynamics, you're towards the end of your time here at WCTC in the mechanical design program. Just a couple things that I ask. I'm not going to again read through all of this. Just kind of be ready when class starts. We start at 5:30. My expectation is that, you're ready to go virtually in person and you're on task with whatever we're talking about. So, just making sure that you're don't have something else on your computer, or that you're, focusing or doing homework for another class in my class. Okay. We're doing dynamics. Okay. You signed up for that. So just be ready when class starts. I am requiring that you have, when we're virtual, a working webcam, okay? And it has to be on and working at all times when you are virtual. And excused absence will be recorded if you don't, all right? So if you need to, and I did put that in our announcement last week, if you need to get yourself a webcam, a working webcam, make sure that you do that, okay, before Thursday. I'll probably give you everybody a little bit of extra time on that if you're still kind of in flux on that, but I'm gonna require that. Be respectful to others, refraining from, chatting when I'm talking so that other students can be listening and getting their questions answered during our class. Stay on task, like I said, with whatever we are doing. Please don't be working on other things when you're in class here. Feel free to ask questions during my demonstrations. Yes, I'm recording, but the whole purpose of the recording is to just capture what's going on in here in class. If you're tentative to want to ask when I'm recording, that's okay, and you can ask after, but truly, you might have the very same question that somebody else does. So I encourage you to ask questions during class. So please don't think just because I'm recording that you shouldn't do that. This is not a production. It is only just documenting what we're doing. That's it. Um, Help your fellow student when you can. I ask that you not swear into my class. I just think we want to be respectful, and we also want to be professional, if you would, because when you get out in industry and you're working in an engineering department, you're considered a professional, okay? And you want to kind of practice that. So make sure that we refrain from foul language. And then also always apply the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have done unto you. If somebody's asking you a question and they need a little bit of help, feel free to help them, or just being respectful to one another. So any questions about that? I see there's something in my chat, Kelly. Oh, it's Kelly, you have mentioned that sometimes the video takes up room. Yes, Lex, it used to. The most recent, and this is what's kind of nice. You're right. I used to say you could turn your cameras off when I was actually talking, because it would take up room. In the previous version of Zoom, it didn't allow me to minimize the group of people with the cameras on. Now I do have that ability to minimize, which is really nice. So now I can do it. So yeah, that's been an update within the last actually school year. I kind of realized last term that I was able to start doing that. So yeah, thank you for asking that. All right, personal electronic devices. Can we use our own devices? Absolutely. Some of you come with your own laptops or iPads and things like that. Absolutely use that. And sometimes it's more convenient than trying to use a flash drive and go between and such, or use the OneDrive to, try to sync up your files. Yes, you are welcome to do that. If you do have, a phone call that comes in during class, I do ask that you put your phone on vibrate. And if you do need to take a phone call, just leave the room. You don't even have to excuse yourself or ask me. Just, get up and take whatever it is outside is no problem. Other policies, we have already said course extension. There are no extensions after the end date, mostly because I have to get my grades in ASAP. So it's good to have everything buttoned up at the very end there. Due dates, no extensions after the 7-day grace period. The reason for the 7-day grace period was, in the past, I would have due dates, And I would get questions like, could I have over the weekend? Could I do? And I always said, sure. I didn't want to say no to anybody. If you just needed a little bit of extra time, that's fine. So that's why I do the 7-day grace period. Then you don't have to ask me, and I don't have to keep track of who I allowed, to have a little bit of an extension. So that's there. But that's why I don't give extensions after the 7-day grace period. Okay, because you're already getting a week built in. So that's that. If you live on the grace period, just know that your last assignment doesn't get a grace period. All right. So they accumulate as you go. So just keep that in mind. Communication outside of class. You can communicate with me and on any one of these. You can do an email, you can do a call or a text, and don't be afraid to text. Just let me know who you are, because then if I don't have you in my contacts yet, I do add you to my contacts, and then I know like the next time. So don't feel like calling me or texting me is like you can't do that. It's totally fine. I just like everybody else. I don't like to say I'm addicted to my phone, because I don't think I'm addicted to my phone, but I'm dependent on my phone. So it's kind of with me all the time, just like everybody else. So texting is perfectly fine. I'm totally fine with that. I say I don't guarantee a response on weekends or after 8 o'clock. Actually, logistically, after 8 o'clock might not happen this term, just because I'm teaching night class every night till 10 o'clock at night. So that logistically might not happen, but I do respond on the weekends. I just don't want to say, like, let's say I'm just out and about on a Saturday afternoon. I might not get back to you in 10 minutes. It might be later that day. Okay. But I will. Cheating, if you're caught cheating in my class, using somebody else's work, I'll withdraw you immediately and you get an F in the class and you get to take it over again. So if you want to finish, so it is requirement of graduation. Don't do that. Usually the reason I find that people cheat is because they're trying to meet a due date. Okay. And with the grace period that I have here and the ability to hand things in, even after the grace period, at just a 20% deduction, which it's enough, but it's not devastating, right? I hope that pulls away any urge to cheat. Okay. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. I've caught people cheating over the years. I'm sure it's happened more than I found, but I don't look for it. I don't look for it for the main reason is you signed up, you're paying money. You want to learn this stuff because you want to be good at this career in the future. So I believe that coming into a class, you're wanting to learn the stuff here. So cheating truly does not help you. So again, I'm not naive. Cheating happens, but I'm not looking for it. That is my whole point. And if I catch you cheating, I think some of you have heard this before, you're really bad at it. Okay, don't do it. Don't do it. In a class like this, it's a little harder for me to detect. Because like in a computer class, like Creo or SolidWorks, it's easier to match things up, like to see exact, things that are the same. But in this type of a class, it's not as easy. And if you are working with somebody, I want you to know, I don't mind you working with other people. If you get together in a group or with a partner and you're working on assignments like the application problems, all for it. Okay. Because so often you can learn a lot from just that whole process. Everybody picks up something a little bit different when you're in my class. And if I'm not there with you when you're working, but you're working with another partner or in a group, you guys can help each other out. I think that's you go to work. Nobody's expecting you to know everything by yourself. You've got teams of people that you're going to be working with. So feel free to exercise that. That is not cheating. On the test, it's an individual assessment. So if you're working, in groups and trying to get the homework done, just make sure you understand what you're doing. Okay. And we all know kind of that difference, right? We know. So that's what I just have to say about cheating. Outside of class work, do not expect that while we are in our class here, I'm going to do lectures in the beginning of class. There always will be work time. I will never, ever, ever, I promise you, talk until 10 o'clock. I won't. So normally I usually don't talk past 2 hours, 2.5 at the very longest. And then after that, you get work time. But know that the expectation is that only the time here is going to get you done with your homework. You're probably gonna have to do stuff outside of work. And at an associate degree level, you can expect anywhere from 2 to 3 hours outside of class per hour that you're in class. So technically, we're in class 8 hours per week. You can expect to have 16 to 24 hours additionally outside of class. Do I plan for that? Do I assign for that? No. Okay, I don't. And I don't think some weeks you might have more because either there's more work or it's something that you just have to spend a little bit more time on understanding and feeling comfortable with. Other weeks it might not be that. But if you come to class and you're here for 8 hours a week, you may not get done with everything during that time. Does that make sense to everybody? Or the practice problems, yes, because we'll be doing those in class together. But application problems, homework wise, expect that it is homework. Okay, it's not going to always be done in class here. Virtual live sessions. Please see the calendar. Blah, 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 blah. We'll be broadcasting live for each one, whether it's from the classroom or from my home. You must have a webcam on and working to be counted as in attendance. If you do not have it working, you'll be recorded as an excused absence. And again, remember, after one, you get one excused absence, but after that, it's 2% off of your grade for each excused absence. The recordings, I will be recording our lectures and posting a link in the Canvas course. Now, because this is the first time that I am doing dynamics class, I can't post the link until I close the Zoom. Okay, so that means that the link won't be available to you until after class ends that night, like after the last person, if you would, logs off and such. Okay, so if you are looking for that, it'll be available later in the evening or early the next morning at the very latest. Check your email daily. We are at that time of year when we could have, number one, class canceled, but also number two, maybe I call in sick, or number three, maybe I'm like, it's really bad weather out there. I don't think any of us should be on the road. I'm going to broadcast from home instead of from school. I'm going to exercise that option of making that switch if I need to, day of. I will always let you know as soon as in the day as I possibly can. So I'd like to say by noon, but it's never a bad idea for any class, especially this time of year. Make sure you check your email before you come out. If you don't see anything from me, then it's no news is good news, and it's like our normal thing. But if you see an email from me, I might say, hey, we're gonna do virtual tonight. Okay. So if I can do it that way, I will. There's been times when the roads have been a little dicey. I think it was just right before break this year. Didn't you guys come in and the roads were bad, but actually on the way home, they weren't too bad. I mean, in the event, was it rain, or I thought it was?
I think it was really bad.
Yeah, last year. Yeah, a year ago. Yes. And that's the other point too, because all of our classes are going to be over Zoom and virtually live. Please don't risk coming on the roads if it's like, I can just be from home. Does that make sense? So you make that determination for yourself as well. Don't ever feel that if you're not in class here, in person, and if you can get on virtually, feel free to do that. Okay. That's why we have that option for everybody. Okay. So you decide when it's best to be where. So any questions about that? So make sure you check your email, because I would do it as an announcement, if you would, to send out to everybody. And does everybody have then the notifications that come via Canvas? Okay. Sorry if I know it's annoying sometimes at the beginning of the term or when I change anything, you guys probably, depending on how you have your notifications set up, but in the event of this, you want to be sure that you get that, because I would send it out as an announcement on Canvas. So then you should see it right away, and that automatically goes to your email as well, right? That's how my understanding is. You get it in both places. Okay. All right. And then the last part of the, so my logistics actually for the course are kind of done. Are there any questions on anything that we covered at this point? Okay. So the rest of this is going to be where you can get help, the academic center and such, and links to that. And at the very end here, this is my best guess, if you would, at what I believe the schedule is going to be. But again, we're going to probably change things around here a little bit, and we'll kind of gauge that as we go along. All right. So what I'm going to do right now is I am going to stop the recording brief. Well, no, I'm not. That was our syllabus. I got a little bit more to go over. Forgot. Let's just take a peek at the Canvas course. So in Canvas, everything is out here for you. We just went over the syllabus. The announcements, will kind of come as they do. But the place that you're going to be most interested in is going to be, first of all, in the modules. Okay. So the modules are going to be each one of our weeks. So I kind of have it, we have about 8 weeks. I think we have a total of 7 modules that we're going to be getting through. So about a module a week-ish, right? So I have those kind of laid out here. And then as we go down, in some of them, like our first one here, I've got the learning plan already figured out. So obviously, because we're going to be starting that this week, I hope that's the case. But the learning plan is going to have kind of the details of the things that we're going to be going over and the sections that you're going to be responsible for. And then you're going to notice that there's going to be the practice problems are going to be identified. So when you click on the practice problems, I'll have the list of the practice problems here. And then some notes about how you're going to be handing in. And as we do those, we'll talk about that more specifically. Then you're also going to have your application problems for that particular unit. Looks like there's a lot here. My goodness. You're going to be busy. You're going to know it really well. That's what you can think. And then I don't have it here yet because I guess I don't have my first one here, but there's going to be an additional page in between here after the module learning plan. So if we're working on module 1, there's going to be a little folder right underneath here that's going to say module 1 session recordings. And then I'm going to be putting the session recordings that pertain to that subject matter in that folder. So if you end up either number 1, missing class, that's where you're going to go into the session recordings folder to see and catch yourself up on what you missed. Or if you just wanted to go over it again because, you just wanted to go over that example again that Kelly did. So those will be also inserted in here as well. And then you're going to see that consistent for each one of the modules as we go down. Okay. The other thing that you're going to see over on the left-hand side is going to be the McGraw-Hill Connect. If you click on that, it is going to take you to the page where you can access the electronic version of the book. And then you can say, go to my Connect section, and it should all be there for you. If you happen to be here in class and have it available, I see some people clicking, some people aren't, that's okay. You don't have to go into it right now, but is everybody getting access to the textbook? Or if you maybe tried it outside of class, have you seen that? I just want to be sure. You might have to fill in a little bit as you go in. Josh, you're in. Anybody else in? Christian's in. Okay. All right. And for those who aren't doing it right now, that's okay. I can access the textbook. Okay, excellent. And so for right now, that's all that you really need to worry about. If you wanted to do the textbook, where I believe it's like if you go down, if it looks similar to mine, down on the right-hand side, it says here, launch ebook. And then that's going to get you this. And then this is going to be how you can, access it. And oops, over here, the contents. And I think here's the table of contents. And then you can go down to the chapters. And we're going to be actually starting in chapter 11, just so that you know. Okay. So that's going to be how that worked. Now, some people don't mind ebooks and some people don't like them. As I had mentioned earlier, if you want a loose leaf version, 3-hole punched version of the textbook for, I think, quite a reasonable price, it's available in the bookstore for you as well. Okay. So I'll let you determine if you want to do that or not. We talked about modules. The Zoom link is over here on the left-hand side. So for those who are here in class right now, you probably didn't exercise that option, but here's the Zoom link for you to follow. And then your grades, the assignments are going to be here as well. And we'll hit those as we go. So any questions about Canvas? Okay. All right. Then I think now I can probably stop this recording